The people who damage Japanese cars the fastest are usually not the ones beating on them. They are the ones who trust them too much. They buy a Toyota, Honda, or Subaru, assume it will take anything, and slowly fall into the habits that shorten its life. In this video, I'm going to show you 7 of the most common ones I see from clients. Let's begin. Number 7. Misuse of Japanese reliability. One of the most expensive mindsets I see is overconfidence. A customer buys a Camry, Accord, Corolla, CR-V, RX 350, something with a Toyota, Honda, Acura, or Lexus badge, and in his head that car becomes immune to neglect. Oil changes get pushed back, coolant gets ignored, spark plugs stay in the engine far beyond their service life. Transmission fluid never gets touched because the car still drives fine. That is how good Japanese cars get turned into expensive repair jobs. I had a customer with a 2015 Honda Accord 2.4 come in convinced the car was bulletproof. He had gone nearly 14,000 miles on the same oil more than once because the engine never gave him trouble. By the time he came to us, the VTC actuator was rattling on cold start, the timing chain tensioner was getting noisy, and the engine was already showing the kind of wear you usually see on cars that lived a much harder life. That repair path can snowball fast. A timing-related job on one of those cars can easily run $1,200 to $2,000 depending on what else is worn. Toyota owners do the same thing with the 2.5-liter Camry and RAV4. The engine is strong, so they assume everything around it can be ignored too. Then the water pump starts weeping, the coolant is old, the serpentine belt is cracked, and the transmission fluid is original at 120,000 miles. None of those issues sounds dramatic by itself. Together, they are exactly how a reliable daily driver starts aging twice as fast as it should. The dangerous part is that Japanese cars usually tolerate neglect longer than most. That makes owners think they're getting away with it. They are not. They are just stretching the damage over a longer timeline. Reliability does not mean low standards. It means the car gives you more chances before the bill gets ugly. In this shop, some of the worst maintained cars we inspect are not German or domestic. They are Toyotas and Hondas owned by people who thought reliability meant they could stop caring. Number 6. Following the lifetime transmission fluid lie. If there's one phrase that has cost Japanese car owners thousands of dollars over the last decade, it is lifetime transmission fluid. We hear it all the time. A customer comes in with a Toyota, Honda, Subaru, or Nissan and tells us the transmission has never been serviced because the manual made it sound unnecessary or the dealer said not to touch it unless there was a problem. By the time there is a problem, the damage is usually already done. The worst cases come from CVT cars because they are far less forgiving when the fluid breaks down. We've seen Nissan Rogues, Altimas, and Sentras come in around 90,000 to 130,000 miles with shuddering, delayed engagement, overheating complaints, or that familiar high RPM, low-speed feeling owners describe as, "It sounds like it's working too hard." In many of those cars, the fluid was original. A fluid service at the right time would have cost roughly $250 to $400. A replacement CVT can run $4,500 to $7,000 without much effort. But it is not just Nissan. Subaru owners get hurt the same way when they treat CVT fluid as permanent. Honda and Toyota owners make a different mistake. They assume a conventional automatic is somehow immune. It is not. We had a 2017 Toyota Camry come through the shop with 118,000 miles, never serviced, still shifting okay according to the owner. The fluid was dark, the pan had fine metallic debris, and the shift quality under load had already started to degrade. That car was lucky. We serviced it before hard failure. A lot of people wait until the transmission starts slipping, and at that point, fresh fluid is not a rescue plan. What makes this problem so dangerous is that transmission wear happens gradually and quietly. No smoke, no dramatic warning, no obvious breakdown at first. Just heat, contaminated fluid, and friction material wearing away mile after mile. In a shop, you stop believing in lifetime anything. Fluid has one job: protect moving parts and manage heat. Once it stops doing that, the transmission starts paying the price. And Japanese transmissions may last a long time, but not on worn-out fluid that should have been changed 50,000 miles ago. Number 5. Ignoring oil consumption because it's a Japanese car, they all do that. One of the most dangerous phrases I hear from owners is, "It burns a little oil, but that's normal." No, not like most people mean it. A high-mileage engine may use some oil between changes, yes, but the problem starts when owners stop tracking it, stop checking the dipstick, and turn oil consumption into background noise. That is how a minor issue becomes timing chain wear, VVT problems, rod bearing damage, catalytic converter failure, or in the worst cases, a completely worn-out engine. Toyota's 2.4-liter 2AZ FE is one of the clearest examples. We still see Camrys, RAV4S, and Scions from those years coming in with owners who have been topping off oil for months or even years without ever addressing the root problem. That engine had a well-known piston ring issue, and once consumption gets bad enough, some drivers are adding a quart every 800 to 1,200 miles, and acting like that is just part of ownership. It is not. Run one of those engines even a little low a few times, and you start accelerating everywhere oil matters most. Acura owners did the same thing with some 3.7-liter TL and MDX models. By the time the customer notices the level is dropping quickly, the plugs are fouled, the catalytic converters are under stress, and the car already feels rougher than it should. We had one TL in the shop that came in for a misfire complaint, and the real story was much bigger. Oil consumption had been ignored so long that the spark plugs were oil-fouled, the rear bank was a mess, and the customer was looking at a repair bill that climbed past $2,000 before even talking about deeper engine wear. The reason this habit kills Japanese cars is simple. These engines are durable, but they are not magical. They still rely on clean oil at the correct level to protect chain tensioners, cam phasers, bearings, and cylinder walls. Once an owner starts normalizing oil loss instead of monitoring it, the engine begins running with less margin for error every single day. In this shop, we do not panic over oil consumption. We panic when an owner shrugs at it. That attitude is what turns a manageable issue into a shortened engine life. Number 4. Using cheap filters, sensors, and bargain bin parts. A lot of owners think they are being smart when they save $80 here, $120 there, or buy the cheaper part because it's all made in the same factory anyway. In our shop, that logic has created some of the most annoying repeat visits we deal with. The car comes in with a rough idle, a random check engine light, lazy throttle response, poor fuel economy, or strange shifting behavior, and when we look at the service history, it is full of bargain parts, cheap oil filters, off-brand ignition coils, low-quality mass airflow sensors, generic oxygen sensors, aftermarket solenoids that technically fit but do not behave like the original part the car was calibrated around. Honda and Acura are some of the easiest examples. We had a 2012 Acura TSX come in after another shop installed a cheap aftermarket VTEC solenoid and a no-name oil filter. The owner's complaint was intermittent hesitation and a check engine light that kept returning. The engine itself was fine. The problem was that the replacement parts were not controlling oil flow and pressure the way the factory setup expected. Once we replaced them with proper components, the car settled down immediately. The customer spent more fixing the cheap repair than he would have spent doing it correctly the first time. Nissan owners get burned this way too, especially with low-grade MAF sensors. We have seen Altimas and Rogues show unstable idle, poor fuel trims, and weird throttle behavior simply because someone wanted the $45 sensor instead of the correct one. Subaru is another brand that punishes this habit. Put low-quality ignition or sensor parts on a Subaru, and you can spend weeks chasing drivability issues that were not there before. The same goes for filters. A poor oil filter with weak media or the wrong bypass characteristics is not just a bad value, it can change how the engine handles cold starts and oil pressure spikes. On a high-mileage Toyota or Mazda, that matters more than people think. This is the part owners miss. Japanese cars are reliable partly because they are tightly engineered. That precision works in your favor when you maintain them properly. It works against you when you start filling them with parts chosen by price alone. Cheap maintenance is one thing, false economy is another. Number 3, doing short trips every day. Some of the hardest used Japanese cars we inspect are not the ones with huge mileage. They are the ones that live 5 minutes at a time. Start, drive a couple of miles, shut off. Start again later, another short run, then back home. Owners love to say, "I barely drive it," as if low mileage automatically means low wear. In reality, repeated short trip use can be one of the worst things you do to an engine, especially when the car rarely gets hot enough to fully burn off moisture and fuel contamination inside the oil. We see this pattern constantly on cars like the Toyota Corolla 1.8, Mazda 3.2.5, Subaru, Forester 2.5, and especially small turbo engines like the Honda Civic 1.5T. The customer thinks he is being gentle because he is not putting highway miles on the car. Meanwhile, the engine keeps cycling through cold starts, rich fueling, condensation, and incomplete warm-up over and over again. That is how you end up with oil that degrades faster than the owner expects, carbon buildup that arrives earlier, and internal wear that does not match the odometer. One customer brought in a 2018 CR-V with barely over 60,000 miles, and on paper it looked like an easy winner. Clean body, quiet engine, nice interior, low mileage. But the driving pattern told the real story. The owner used it for school drop-offs, grocery runs, and local errands only. When we checked it, the oil smelled strongly of fuel. The maintenance intervals had been stretched too far for that type of use, and the engine was already showing the kind of contamination we usually warn people about long before 100,000 miles. That is not a Honda problem. That is a usage pattern problem. Japanese engines generally love consistent maintenance and fully warmed-up operation. What they do not love is spending their whole life in the cold phase. You never give the oil a fair chance. The battery stays under more stress, the exhaust system sees more moisture, and the engine accumulates grime it would normally burn off during longer drives. If your car lives on short trips, you cannot maintain it like a highway commuter car. That mistake quietly shortens engine life while the owner thinks he is barely using the vehicle at all. Number 2. Skipping cooling system service until it is too late. A lot of owners treat the cooling system like it only matters once the temperature gauge moves. That is exactly why so many reliable Japanese cars end up in our shop with problems that should have been preventable. Cooling systems usually do not fail all at once. They age in pieces. Coolant loses its protective properties. Plastic radiator tanks get brittle. Thermostats get lazy. Water pumps start seeping. Caps stop holding pressure the way they should. The owner sees none of it until one hot day turns a healthy engine into an overheating engine. This is where Japanese cars get misunderstood. Toyota, Honda, Mazda, Subaru, and Lexus all build engines that can run for a very long time, but they do not tolerate overheating casually. A single serious overheat can warp aluminum components, damage head gaskets, cook seals, and shorten the life of an engine that otherwise had another 100,000 miles left in it. We had a customer with a 2013 Toyota Avalon who ignored a small coolant loss for months because the car still drove normally. He kept adding coolant now and then and figured that was good enough. What started as a minor water pump leak turned into an overheating event in traffic, and by the time it reached us, the repair had moved far beyond a simple pump job. That difference can be the difference between a $700 to $1,000 repair and a bill several times higher. Subaru owners get hit hard when they ignore this area, especially on cars that see mountain driving, long winters, or heavy traffic. Mazda owners do too, because once a cooling system starts operating below its best, the engine may still run, but it is no longer running with the same safety margin. And Honda owners often make the mistake of assuming that because the car is not overheating, the coolant must still be fine. That is not how it works. What we tell people in the shop is simple. If a Japanese car is worth keeping, then the cooling system is worth staying ahead of. Fresh coolant, a healthy radiator, proper pressure, and early attention to leaks matter far more than most drivers realize. Engines rarely die because owners ignored one giant warning. They die because owners ignored 5 small ones until the heat finally finished the job. Number 1. Driving CVTs and small Japanese drivetrains the wrong way. Some owners never really learn what kind of vehicle they bought. That sounds harsh, but we see it all the time. They buy a Corolla, Rogue, HR-V, Crosstrek, or base model Accord because it is affordable, fuel-efficient, and reliable, then drive it like it is a body-on-frame truck with a big torque reserve and a transmission built for punishment. Full throttle up long grades, overloaded cargo areas, constant stop-and-go launches, hard acceleration from low speed, and in some cases even light towing with drivetrains that were never designed to live that kind of life every day. This matters because a lot of modern Japanese cars are engineered around efficiency first. That is especially true with CVTs and smaller naturally aspirated 4-cylinders. They can last a long time, but only if the owner understands what they are and what they are not. We had a customer with a Nissan Rogue who used it for repeated highway trips loaded with tools and equipment, then complained that the transmission felt weak and noisy by around 95,000 miles. The fluid had been neglected, the CVT had clearly been heat-stressed, and the owner kept describing his driving style as normal. For that vehicle, it was not normal. It was sustained overwork. A fluid service done early might have been a few $100s. Once a CVT starts slipping or overheating regularly, you are staring at a repair bill that can rival the value of the car. You see a milder version of the same problem in Honda Civics, Toyota Corollas, and Subaru Crosstreks that spend their lives pinned at high RPM with passengers, luggage, steep hills, and no real mechanical sympathy. The engine may survive it for a while, but the transmission, mounts, cooling load, and fluid life all pay the price. Small drivetrains do not usually fail because of one dramatic event. They wear down faster because owners keep demanding more from them than they were built to give. Good shop owners learn to listen carefully when a customer says, "I do not drive it that hard." Then you ask the right questions, and it turns out the car is carrying too much weight, running too hot, or spending its life under load. Japanese cars are durable, but durability is not the same thing as unlimited abuse tolerance. That confusion kills a lot of good cars early, so there you have it. These are some of the most common ways owners slowly shorten the life of good Japanese cars without realizing it until the repair bills start stacking up. If you want your car to stay reliable for the long haul, fixing these habits matters a lot more than most people think. See you on the road, buddy.